I just want to start this episode by saying that if you are going through a season of waiting or of loss with trying for a child or trying to conceive, I want to give you total permission to not listen to this episode or skip this or do whatever you want to keep you feeling positive. Or if you want to be here, you're totally welcome to, but also zero pressure from this end. Hi, my name is Jacqui, if we haven't met before, but I'm assuming most of you watching and listening to this have been a part of my world for at least a little while now. I wanted to do this as a bit of a, hi, this is where I've been episode. You may have noticed I haven't shared a podcast video or a video for the last couple of weeks. And I announced on Monday just gone, or probably the Tuesday that's coming out, last week, that I am pregnant, which is really, really exciting. We have been trying for almost a year and a half, and it was really exciting to receive that news and have baby number 2 on the way, which is really, really cool. They will be due at around Easter 2024. So I've got about 6 more months or so to warm up and to create structures and everything for the business, which is a whole other podcast episode. But what I wanted to tackle in this episode, which is related to life and business, is, I guess, what this last 2 months looked like for me as a business owner and how I kind of tackled that. Because if you've been pregnant before or you know many pregnant people, the first trimester can be a really tricky time. For some people, they get really nauseous and vomiting all the time, and it's just a horrible time for them. Other people, like myself, less nauseous, but still kind of queasy 24/7 and just really tired all of the time. And some people are totally fine. But for me, I was in that tired/queasy kind of category, which I'm very grateful for. I wasn't in the overly nauseous category because that just seems like an absolute nightmare. But for me, this is, I guess, what my reality was. And I wanted to share with you what that looks like as a business owner, how I kind of tackled losing 4/5 of my work time just like that, and how I kind of prioritized things, how I kept the business running, how I kept on making money and making sales enough to pay myself and enough to pay my team, even though I was hardly working. And I want to show what that looked like and a bit of behind the scenes, because I probably haven't heard this from anyone before, to be honest with you. I feel like in business, women sometimes they do kind of drop off a little bit the online world and like, hi, I'm back, I'm pregnant, and they kind of get back into things, but they might not always share what exactly that looked like while they were gone. And so I wanted to kind of give you a bit of a backdoor view into what that kind of looked like for me, and how that works. So welcome to the podcast, welcome to the video, and let's dive in. So right now we're about 13 weeks into the pregnancy, which is really exciting. And about a week ago, I started to turn a corner and feel a lot better than I had been doing. And so pretty much because I've been trying for a while, I kind of had stopped kind of planning my life around, we'll fall pregnant next time, because it just kept on not happening. So by the time we actually did fall pregnant, I was like, what? I need to reassess my whole life plan and work this all out. And so I ended up falling pregnant and finding out we were pregnant right before the start of me running the biggest program that I run, which is called the Co-Creation Club, which is like a 10-week intensive program that I took 15 or so people through this round, where we have group calls every second week. We have constant support inside a Facebook group. It's a big program. And it's like one of the biggest focuses for the year. I usually only run it once or twice because it's a big deal. And that program started, I literally found out I was pregnant the weekend before that program started. So I was like, cool, hopefully we'll see how this pregnancy goes. And for the first week or two of pregnancy, or at least after you find out, you're usually okay. At least I was, and have been in past pregnancies. I've heard most people are kind of okay, which is really great. You're kind of feeling fine. You're kind of feeling, and you're not feeling much different at all, to be honest. But for me, I forgot how, I think it was maybe week 6 or so, the tiredness just hit me like a train. And it meant that instead of working, so as a mum and a full-time carer of my toddler, she gets babysat one day a week by my parents, and beyond that I just work in nap times and in the evenings, and she's happily playing. And so for me, it was really it was a big shift on the way that I would work, because instead of working all the time and in the nap times and the day she was babysat, I couldn't really work during her nap times anymore because I was napping with her. Literally napping with her for at least 2 hours. Oh, it was amazing. I'm really tired right now. I need another nap. And instead of working in the evenings, I would also be going to bed with her. And so all of my work time was lost. And any time, sometimes I'd tap away on my laptop in the lounge room when she was playing happily. But instead of doing that, I was lying on the couch thinking, I just want to go to bed and watching Netflix. And so it was just a real season of, I can't work. And so I would muster all of my energy for Tuesdays when my daughter was babysat so that I could get something done. But beyond that, and like those days were just getting full of different calls, and I'd have like I'd have my 3 club calls for the week that I have to do for my program and getting back to them. And so every single spare minute was just pretty much just getting back to my club students to making sure that they got the value out of the program they'd just paid for. And so it was an really interesting time. So before that tiredness hit, I did one of the best things I could ever do and I ever recommend. If you are someone who's hoping to get pregnant in the future, remember this tip in case you end up with symptoms like me. It was so good. When I found out I was pregnant, for some reason I decided, all right, let's do some batch recording. So I batch recorded like a month or two's worth of podcast episodes and YouTube tutorials. And that meant I could just hand all those off to my video editor and post those out while I wasn't feeling very well. Because after I wasn't feeling well, I was not feeling like putting on makeup and sitting down and doing a video like this. I was just not in the mental space of doing that and the capacity of doing that, the energy to do that. And so pre-recording all of those things was one of the best decisions I ever made. And so that meant that it kind of looked like I was just traveling along okay for quite a little while into that first trimester. But you might have noticed yet there hasn't been anything got for the last few weeks because I ran out of batch stuff, and I actually did try to record some more stuff, but baby brain so hit me. I recorded a whole video. I got my video editor to edit it. He sent it back to me and I was about to schedule it up on YouTube. And then I was like, I posted that exact same content 2 weeks earlier. It was a tutorial on something on Canva, and I'd literally just recorded and uploaded another tutorial on that 2 weeks earlier. I just totally spaced on that. I'd done that and everything was just, whoa. So yeah, I didn't post that, and I might save that in the bank for like a few months' time in case people wanted to hear Jacqui say the exact same tutorial in a slightly different way. So I decided let's have a break from those things. And I wasn't able to decide that so far in advance that I even let anyone know that was happening. I was like, there was no like, I'm going on a podcast hiatus or a YouTube hiatus. It was just, I can't do this anymore. Don't talk to me. I can't. I'm just going to have a break. And that's what it's been. And to be honest, I don't even know that there's going to be a podcast coming up the week after this or a tutorial coming the week after this. Is kind of like a little bit of an in because I'm still so behind on everything. I'm going to take the time to catch up on everything else, and then I'll get back into my YouTube and podcast videos. So know that they are still going to be coming, but they still might be a couple of weeks break on that. In the meantime, there is heaps of great content there in the past that you're very welcome to go back and have a look at. Highly recommend, like if you're listening on the podcast, there's like 150 episodes there if you do go back and have a look at. And on YouTube, there's plenty of tutorials to go back and have a look at. So make sure you do that if you are feeling like you need a bit more help, unless you've watched through all of them, in which case, bravo. I have nothing more to say to you. Thank you for being cool. All right, backtrack. So batch recording when I found out I was pregnant was one of the best decisions I ever made. And yeah, pretty much what I had to do was let go. I had to be like, okay, the plans that I had for my business in this quarter are not going to happen because I don't have the capacity to make them happen. And that's okay. I don't have to, like, I think in business, we always feel like we have to be in this season of grow at like exponential rates. But it's also okay if you're in the financial capability to do so, to just plateau, to just chill and to just solidify and to enjoy that season rather than feel like you always have to be growing and doing and being bigger. And so I had to kind of be like, okay, cool. I'm not going to do anything huge right now. And I already was playing a slower season because I was going to be implementing the club. And that was, I always want to make sure I'm present for that. So I didn't have a huge amount planned, but I did have the launch of my studio planned. So I have a virtual studio where I've got some designers working for me, and I planned to launch that in that time. And I had to continue on with that launch. If it was a launch of a different program, I probably would have postponed it until next month because I had work. I had these designers kind of hired and I'd promised them work. I needed to make sure that I kept going with that and I kept on putting it out there so that I could find work for them and pass that over. And also because I was hosting a live in-person event and I'd booked a venue and I'd booked all this stuff and I'd send out invites. I just wanted to make sure I kept my word on all of that. So my in-person event and the launch of the studio still went ahead. I slept the morning, like all day before the event, and then I got up and got ready and I drove to Melbourne, and then I had one of my designers drive me home because I was too tired. Like I had to, at the end of the party, I think we left at around 8, and I was like literally talking to the few people that were left. I was like, I'm so sorry, but I am exhausted. I need to go home right now. And it was a great party, but it was so much effort. And like we had a third of the people just pull out on the last day, which was like, oh, I'm doing all this effort and people just aren't even going to come. It was a tricky day, but it was also really beautiful that I met so many incredible people and people from YouTube and people that were listening to our podcast. And it was really, really great to meet those people and kind of launch the studio. But at the same time, I didn't really launch the studio. I did a couple of YouTube videos and I did a couple of things, but in essence, I didn't launch the studio how I wanted to. And I had to be okay with that. Because and I had to remember that that's okay to do this launch slower than I would have anticipated. I would have loved to have done like a big bang launch and have people like lining up and my books overflowing. And I think I could have almost done that if I had been able to launch how I wanted to. But the fact of the matter was, I've posted like 4 times on social media in the last 2 months, and only 2 of them have been about the studio, when in essence, if I was doing a proper launch, I would have done about 20 posts around the studio and warming people up and showing my great team and kind of doing all this amazing promotional and building desire and all these things I would normally do in a great launch. And the launch runway, if you've watched any of my launch videos or listened to any of my launch podcasts, I would have done all those things, but I didn't, because I didn't have the capacity. I was also going to redesign my entire website. I'm paying for the new program. I bought all the templates and I got 1 page in, and then I got pregnant. And so that's now been put on the back burner. And so I didn't have an actual, like literally the week of the launch of the studio, I didn't have a website to launch the studio. And so like, I was like, what am I going to do? And I ended up assigning that task to one of my designers. And I said, doesn't have to be a work of art, but I just need something. Can you just create this web page for me? Because I was hoping to redesign that web page on my new website, but now it's on my old website. There was a whole thing. And so there was just so many things I had to let go of my expectations of, this isn't going to be a giant successful launch. This isn't going to have like all of the bells and whistles that I wanted it to have, but it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. And the fact of the matter is, unlike a lot of my other launches that have like a 2-week, 3-week card open period, I can just, the studio is open hopefully forever, not forever, but for indefinitely. And so that means that I can promote it next month when I'm feeling better, and it'll grow then. I'll start doing some content now, and it'll grow when it grows, rather than feeling like I just had an unsuccessful launch and it's all gone. It's all like failed now. It's like, no, I'll just do a really slow launch and I'll start to build it up when I'm feeling better. So a lot of the first trimester was really just saying, this is okay. Like my coach, Ali, she did a podcast episode on this recently, actually. And she just talked about how there's just things in business that aren't urgent. And that's most things, unless, like, for me, I'm not a doctor. People's lives are rarely at the stake of my hands, which I'm really grateful for. And it means that nothing in my business is actually that urgent, unless I've like made a direct promise to someone whose business is going to fail if I don't get what I promised to them in time. Most people, I can say, I'm really sorry, I can't get this to you in time. Most people didn't even notice that I stopped posting on social media. Most people probably didn't notice I paused my posting on my Instagram and my podcast and my YouTube. And most people probably didn't notice that the studio barely got launched. And so I had to decide, like, these are my expectations, but it's going to be okay if I don't do that. And so it was a lot of just letting go and realizing this isn't urgent, and knowing that I still had systems in place to grow my business in other ways. So thankfully, a few months earlier, I'd implemented Facebook ads for my course, DIY Design My Biz. So that program between YouTube and my Facebook ads kept on selling during that time. And between the monthly recurring payments from the Co-Creation Club and from the DIY Design My Biz, plus a couple of studio clients, because I was still getting a few return clients and a couple of new clients for the studio, those 3 things meant that I could at least keep paying myself the minimum wage, and also keep paying my staff, so the people that had done work for me. So like my video editor and my VA and my designers, I could keep on paying them because there was still money coming into the business. And so doing those things was really helpful. So I'm glad I had things set up. I had a whole funnel set up for my business that kind of kept things running for me to some capacity. If I had have been helping those with organic traffic, they would have grown even more. But the fact that I couldn't do that didn't mean that I just stopped earning all money in my business and that my business would just fall apart. And so especially because I have a team, then that was really important to me. And so I'm really grateful that was able to keep on happening. But yeah, I think it was. I'm really glad that we had those systems implemented, and that my team knew what they were doing, and my VA, like, we had monthly recurring tasks, and like the calls in my program kept on getting scheduled, and different things kept on getting sent and happening, even though I wasn't feeling up to doing all of that myself. And so, as much as you can, if you can implement some different systems in your business, if you can do any batch recording of content or creating of content, if you can implement any sort of advertising or even just funnels where on my YouTube videos, people were still finding me, and people were still downloading my opt-ins and downloading and joining my free challenge, and then going on to join my course and doing the different things that I had spent hours and hours setting up previously, but could now run themselves really well. So, yeah, I think those are the main things I wanted to share. I guess I just wanted to share how things looked, how I have been just so incredibly tired. I'm like, I don't know if you can tell, I was sitting next to some family on the weekend, and they're like, did you just was that a tired blink? And I was like, yes, that was a tired blink. I'm so exhausted. I did not get enough sleep last night. But in essence, the idea of what things really do look like for a business owner, and that so many things in business that we feel are important aren't. Like, I've got one of my co-creation clubbers at this point, she's about to launch a podcast. Been trying to launch it for so long, and things just keep on getting in the way, or work just keeps on coming up for her that's more important than launching this podcast. And she had sat down ready to, like, she'd planned out all of her content. She'd got a babysitter. She was ready to record, and then she got a cold. And when you've got a cold and you sound all full and congested, it's really hard to start a podcast. And so she's like, well, we just have to pause it again. We just have to put it off again. And that's okay. Like, it's not the end of the world. Yes, it would be amazing to launch a podcast. Yes, it would have been amazing to keep on going weekly with my YouTube episodes. But did you know my YouTube is actually doing better right now than it ever has before? Because that old content is working for me, even though I haven't uploaded new content in a couple of weeks. I'm going to just taking the pressure off and thinking, what isn't important? Are there any launches I can push back? Are there any things I can keep going by themselves? Is it anything, if you really are struggling, if you don't have as many systems and stuff set up as I did, or ways to earn income as I did set up previously, is there anything you've created in the past that you can just quietly relaunch? You can just send an email out to your list and say, hey, I've got this thing in case you haven't seen it. Would love to have you purchase it. Like, obviously using better marketing terms than that, but is there something you've done before that you can just remarket really easily and quickly? So kind of just asking yourself those questions to help you kind of work out what's important, what's not, what can wait, and just letting yourself have that rest. Because if you're like me, you're growing a human, and that takes a huge amount of energy. And so, yeah, just doing those things and taking the pressure was the main thing, and having those systems in place, and realizing not everything is important as I thought it was. So if you've ever got any questions around that I might have forgotten to mention, feel free to pop it in the comments, or if you're on Instagram, you can message me, or do anything of the sort, and I would love to have a bit of a chat to you, because it's an interesting season, and I don't know that it really gets talked about very much. But at the same time, as tricky as it was, I'm just so darn grateful to be having a baby on the way, and feeling very, very blessed and so beyond grateful. So it's such an interesting timing, like, oh, this is really hard, but also I'm so wildly grateful and will always be for this. And so, yeah, sending love to any of you that are in those seasons of waiting or in grief, and knowing that those are really hard, and seeing you in that, and I have no words for that. It's just a really tricky time, but knowing that you've got this. You're strong. Anyway, getting a whole other tangent. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. I have so enjoyed being here. I cannot guarantee when the next episode will be coming out, but hopefully it will be at some point in October. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you soon for another one. And in the meantime, feel free to hit up some of my older episodes. If you want to learn from me, my course, DIY Design Biz, is still open. The Co-Creation Club, will, just in case you're wondering, will now not be run for a very long time, because I'm not going to launch it between now and the baby, and then I don't know how long off I'm going to have after the baby. So it'll be an interesting season. But if you do want to learn from me, pretty much the only way at the moment is to join my course, DIY Design Biz, and it is incredible. And you do get monthly calls with me inside there. You get support from me inside a Facebook group, plus you get to learn beginning to end of creating your own brand, beginning to end of creating on Canva, beginning to end of creating any kind of graphics you need for your business. And I would love to serve you in there. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you sometime in the future for another episode. Bye.